Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Panerai Luminor 1950 3 Days PAM00663. You can see this limited edition of 1,000 pieces in stainless steel on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this limited series watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this PAM00663. Now, you know the PAM00663 is a combination of the form of a vintage Panerai, that thanks to the historically accurate and faithful lines of the 1950 case, but also a dial that pays tribute to the survivors among the original Panerai combat watches, the ones that have endured by serendipitous luck and collector love over the decades since the halcyon days of the 1950s, when models bearing this very size and profile saw service in the armed forces of Italy and its allies. Now today, this watch, like an old ship that's found safe harbor, finds space on your wrist, effectively a safe harbor for a modern tribute to the original. This watch wears like a modern watch with vintage style. On my wrist, this watch is 47 millimeters from 9 to 3 across the dial. That's not counting the crown guard. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, oval in profile. The watch is thick. You'll note it has many layers. There's the case, there's the bezel, and then there's the highly domed vintage style plexiglass that gives you that romantic off-axis distortion, just like the vintage dive watches would have, in as much as they used the same thermoplastic material. But it's 16.5 millimeters thick. Thanks to the slope and many steps, it will slip underneath a sweater, sport jacket, or blazer cuff, but you may have more trouble with tight dress sleeves. From lug to lug, this watch measures a robust 57.1 millimeters, but you'll note that the lugs are rather tight cropped and short. So while the watch does flare a bit at the edge of my wrist, I would say you can still wear it securely on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. Even back in the day, these watches looked large on the wrists of amphibious warfare specialists, so Panerai's look has always been oversized, and quite frankly, it's expected that the watch will look somewhat out of proportion on the wrist. The acid test is security. Does it sit tight? And it does. In my estimation, you can wear it tight, secure, and well fit on a wrist of 15 centimeters. Now, you'll also note that the strap is retained by the classical Panerai screwed-in bars, not by spring bars. This makes it easier to swap straps at home using included tools, but it also means that the watch, which is large, heavy, and valuable naturally, has more security and is more tightly affixed to its natural vulcanized rubber strap. Now, the strap is a superb piece. As you'll note, channeling on both sides allows the wrist to breathe on hot days. Moisture, grit, sweat, oils are able to get up off the wrist, and the evacuation of material on the underside also creates a more pliant and flexible natural rubber strap. You'll note strong character lines on the top, as well as the Panerai company name, terminate in a large polished trapezoidal pin buckle. This is classical Panerai. Like the historical precedents for the case and the dial, so too was this watch inspired by history. Practical then, it remains so today. Now, the watch is all of high polish. This is a special series, and therefore the watch has something, an occasion about it. The sense of occasion continues from the high polished compound curves of that 1950 case, which you'll note is more sensuous and complex than the original 1993 Luminor, but very true historically to the 1950 models that are the namesake for this case. Transitioning to a high-polished steel bezel, there's that plexiglass crystal, which we love so much and which is so beautifully bubble-like, and then there's the brown of the dial with the rose gold of the hands at center, and the simulated ecru coloration of the superluminova. Now, this is a simulated patina, both of dial and of luminescent paint, designed to evoke and pay tribute to those vintage watches that have survived the present day and feature very much an aesthetic like this. However, as a modern watch, there's no flaking, peeling inside the dial, and rather than dying out with time, this luminescence, a modern material, will never fade and will always be bright as a torch when the lights fall. So legible, as every Panerai should be in any light, the watch is also appropriate in any condition, formal or sports, and the legendary device protecting the crown, an original Panerai invention, is present and correct. You could see this watch silhouetted against a bright lamp and you would know exactly what it is. So iconic as a design, it's also practical from an engineering standpoint. Now you'll note the cam that locks the crown. It has a small roller bearing in it known as the runner. All you do is push down the lever. Now you have 100-meter water resistance. Lift it, and now you can manipulate winding, setting. Don't forget that the watch also features a unique time zone feature. As you jump forward or backwards, you can manipulate without stopping the watch. When fully wound, this manual wind caliber P3000 has a 3-day power reserve, and in true sports style, you'll note a dual-anchored balance bridge with a free-sprung index. Now, I specifically did not wind the watch because I wanted you to be able to get a look, if you might, at the variable inertia balance blocks built into the balance. These move in and out with watchmakers' tools to change the moment of inertia of the balance. That's how you regulate this watch faster or slower, and that's why the watch is so shock resistant and resistant to shock-induced timing deviations. There's not a mobile index that can be budged by bumps and bruises on the wrist. Also note the vintage pocket watch style of the architecture, straight-grained across with a 3/4 style bridge. It pays homage to the vintage pocket watch calibers used during the 30s, 40s, and 50s in the original Panerai combat watches. Now, of course, the watch features the vintage Panerai logo from the 1970s on the case back, so there's a little bit of something from each era of the company's grand history, as well as 100-meter water resistance and practicality to wear this watch like a sportster or, in anything but the tightest of cuffs, a dress companion. The vintage charm of the dial and the high polish of the case can pull off either. You can see this limited series of 1,000 pieces and own it on our website.